If you want all of your data in one place, you need the Intuit ERP. I'm Damon John, and I run my growing business on Intuit Enterprise Suite. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
This is the Rumors Are True podcast, brought to you by Pantheon Media Network.
Hi, this is Chris Daly, currently of Texas is the Reason and Ravens, formerly of Jets to Brazil, 108 and Resurrection, and you're listening to the Rumors Are True cast.
Welcome, this is Jeremy Allen Gould, and I'm coming to you today to confirm between God and of man that the rumors you have all heard are true. I started this podcast to have a platform for the bands and artists that I've worked with in the past, as well as new musicians and artists that influenced myself and many others. The Rumors Are True podcast is an opportunity for the artists to tell their story their way. I'm still in the business of confirming rumors. I still love a good conversation, and I still freaking love music. So thanks again for joining me on this journey, and I hope you like what you hear. With that said, the rumors are definitely true. Hey, welcome to this latest episode of the Rumors Are True podcast. My name is Jeremy, and today I welcome Dan Didier. You know Dan from the bands The Promise Ring, Maritime, and Vermont. Awesome conversation with Dan, so honored to have him on this podcast to bring me through his journey through music, as well as what he has in his upcoming future. So I hope you enjoy this latest episode with Dan Didier.
Clocks keep slipping time that paint the salt-stained lines
Dan, what is up, my friend? Thank you so much for spending some time with me and coming on the podcast.
Hello, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing just fine.
That's
Thank
great.
you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for spending time. Like I said, really honored to have you on here. Been a big fan of the Promise Ring and Maritime and Vermont over the years, and just your drumming in general. It's been incredible, and I've just been a big fan of it. Tell me, Dan, what's new in your world? What's current in your world?
Oh, too many things. I'm in too many bands. I'm trying to develop too many projects. Yeah, and then I have two daughters, one in college and one in high school, about to go to college, and
Wow.
yeah, so it's two cats. So it's busy. I'm really busy.
Sure. What
Yeah.
are those new projects you're working on that you mentioned?
For music, I'm in this band called the Hallelujah Ward, where I play drums with two of my friends in Milwaukee here. We have one album out
Oh, cool.
right now, and so we're actually playing this Saturday. So it's like it's fun to be in a three-piece again. Different Vermont was always basically a three-piece, but this is a little bit different of a three-piece because it's a rock band, not necessarily whatever Vermont was. It's great because I'm learning more in this new band, the Hallelujah Ward, than I did in any other band because of it being a technical,
Sure.
rock band. I mean, not technical like prog rock, but again, I'm just separating it from what
Sure.
Vermont was a very minimal, very like a very minimal band, right?
Sure.
Minimal sounds. Drum beats were really simple, really to the point. Whereas this band, they're a little bit, it's like a standard rock stuff. So I'm learning a lot about that because, the biggest thing is that you cannot hide when you're a trio, right? Like
Sure.
you every mistake is exponentially amplified because there's less to cover it. And so Paul Hancock, the bass player, me and him I've learned a lot from him as well, just playing together. Not that I didn't learn anything from any of the other myriad of bass players I played with, but again, that was in the context of like four or more members.
Sure.
And then Mark Waldock, who's the lead singer songwriter of the Hallelujah Ward. He has such a bombastic voice and crazy guitar with 1,000 pedals, and sounds are crazy. So it's like me and Paul have to be locked because as long as me and Paul are locked, Mark can do whatever the hell he wants, and that's fine. The song can still like function.
Yeah,
the structure
sounds like
is
a lot of
there.
pressure. Sounds like a lot of pressure.
Yeah, but it's super fun. I've really been enjoying that. And then I'm in this band called Fight Dice, which started as a joke. It's a D&D themed punk hardcore metal band.
I love that.
With old friends. Todd Bell from Braid is the bass player. So it's funny that of all the bands that me and him have been into and been a part of, the one band that we are actually playing together in is a D&D themed punk metal and hardcore band. But yeah, no, it has, again, it's like we started playing D&D together, like these friends, a group of friends, and we realized, we're all musicians basically. And it's like that classic, like, would it be funny if? And that actually became a reality.
That's amazing. That's incredible. I love the band name too.
Yeah. So that band has a record out, and we're recording a new single right now. And then this newer band called Lessons is playing its first show, and we used to be called Dramatic Lovers, and that's the band that I play keyboards in. Now it's basically the exact same band, but with a different songwriter, just another member was like, let's do these songs. We're like, okay, let's just change the name. And so that's a challenge because I am not a good keyboard player. So that's a challenge for me. I love writing on keyboard, but like performance, like if I'm recording keyboard, awesome, because I can just start, stop, play around, you can edit, mess around, or whatever. Yeah. But like live is a different thing. So that's a challenge. And then I played with this band Seances, which is my friend Eric Arsno's thing. So it's just like, it's
holy
just
cow,
like,
you're busy.
I need to play drums specifically, but I just need to keep making music.
I love that.
And then like my day job, I work at this company called September Club that we produce documentaries. So that's a full-time job, obviously, because it is a full-time job. But that's also developing a lot of projects and stuff like that. So it's, so I have to balance a lot of things, because that's also that I travel a lot with work too. So I have to balance that and practice, and I have to, it happens, when like, okay, I have to fly for this shoot or play this show. Can I get, and especially with the world of travel right now, like there's no guarantee you will make it home on time. So it's like I had to make, a lot of decisions about like, do I go on the shoot, cancel the show, or find someone to replace me on the shoot and then do the show,
Yeah. That sounds extremely busy, man. I'm glad though that you have a lot of your fingers in a lot of things and staying active and obviously in the music world and then family wise and stuff. So that's cool. It sounds like an exciting life for you, and I'm glad that you're at least putting art out there in various ways. It's really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it. No, I have to. It's the only way to stave the darkness.
I get it.
Keep busy. Keep busy. Keep creative, because it's not to put too fine a point on it. It's fucking bleak. So you got.
I get where you're coming from.
Keep motivated.
Absolutely, man. Hey, this is Jeremy with the Rumors Are True podcast. We'll pause for a word from our sponsors. Stick around. You don't want to miss what's next. Dan, let's talk about growing up for you. Bring me through some of those records, some of those influences, shows, bands that kind of just pushed you in the direction you've went in musically and just overall in life.
I mean, 100%. I'm influenced by my older brother, Dane. Growing up, like I have my older sister Dina is like 9 years older than me, so I was never really like, close necessarily, because it's just that age gap is significant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because by the time I like had memories of of doing stuff, she was already sort of like moving on with her, graduating high school, going to college, whatever. So my brother's only like 3 years older, so we were a lot closer, and so I basically did whatever he did, So music wise, my dad listened to a lot of oldies, so I grew up on a lot of Johnny Cash, a lot of Elvis, a lot of R&B, 50s R&B, like all that sort of mix cassettes that you probably get free or for a penny. It was like all my dad listened to on road trips and stuff that we would take. And so that all those songs are kind of embedded. And the first record that I bought was Rolling Stones' Tattoo You. Like that was my first, like I went to a store and like bought a record. Right. And that was just, just because Start Me Up was a cool song. And so I was like, oh, that'd be cool to have this. I heard this is a cool band. But yeah, I mean, it's just, and I grew up in a very, white suburban, town,
Sure.
And is, very, very typical. And it wasn't really until I got into, again, via my brother, more into punk and post-punk and new wave and skateboarding, that I finally felt like, you know, belong
You're home.
somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kept busy too, just trying to do whatever. So like in high school, music was everything for me. So I did choir. I did any sort of music, band, jazz band, like everything. I just needed to keep, again, just story of my life. I
Yeah.
keep busy.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
And so, that all, yeah, it was and so, with listening to punk and hardcore then was just like, oh, I got to do this. Like, this seems like something I can do. And I'm already playing drums. Like I can,
Yeah.
I just need to find the right people around me to, do something with,
Yeah.
And then actually, ironically, the first person that I started doing music with was Damon Atkinson, who's the drummer of
Wow.
Braid. We grew up in the same town, and so we would, like go into each other's basements, and we had a guitar set up and a drum set up in each of our houses. So whoever, like, we would sleep over at whomever's house, we would like. Oh, let's write songs or whatever. And so like I would play guitar and sing, he would play guitar and sing, I'd play drums, he'd play drums, and we would just sort of like mess around like that through like middle school and stuff.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
What were some of those early bands? And I guess previous to the early bands, did you feel like you had, obviously a talent pretty early on in terms of the music and playing drums and, like you said, playing guitar? Was that pretty easy for you? And kind of bring me through some of those early bands before the Promise Ring.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess there's a a fine line of talent and just wanting to do something, right? And I don't know if I'm necessarily talented, but I just really wanted to do this, right? So I just kind of like, regardless if I'm, good at something, I still throw my whole self into it.
Sure.
So I did that with drums. And so the first the first band with Damon was called Peace Loving Anarchists. It was our middle school band, and we played like one show, and it was the talent show, the middle school talent show. We did a couple songs. I think this is amazing. 2 originals and Wipeout. So
it's incredible.
Because if you're going to do a cover,
sure.
So we, oh, that was really funny. And I know there's a VHS tape, like, because I watched it once when I was at a sleepover at one of my old friend's house. But I don't know if that exists anymore. And then I really got into more like New York hardcore and that sort of like in straight edge and, that, and I, became vegetarian, because of like Gorilla Biscuits and Youth of Today lyrics and, and that was like, I was 12 or whatever. I'm like, this is life changing. And so, yeah, so then we were like, well, these are the type of bands I want to sort of like be like or whatever. And so I started a band called Proud, but then we had to kick Damon out because he smoked. So dumb. So dumb. But, and then, then we got some, people together. And I think that's when, this might've been beginning. I can't remember. At some point then is when I met, Scott Beshta, who is the first bass player of the Promise Ring.
Oh, cool.
I was in a band. He then became part of this, Proud, and then Proud became like more hardcore and darker and metal called Drawback. And so we did that. And that was mainly like, end of middle school, high school. And then that was only for a couple of years, because then at the end of high school, we then, Besh and I, and the guitar player Brett Schwann, who is in Fight Dice now, was in this band called Kaylee Shrine, and he was in Drawback and Kaylee Shrine with me, but we formed Kaylee Shrine, which was another trio, another power trio. And yeah, so we did that for a couple of years, did a couple 7 inches or whatever. And then when the band None Left Standing broke up in Madison, when we knew Jason Genevico and Matt Mangan from that band wanted to start a new band with us. So then Kaylee Shrine broke up. Me and Beshta went with Genevico and Matt Mangan to do a new project, right? And so, and then what ended up happening was Matt liked this girl in Bloomington, Indiana. He went to go do that. So now it was just me, Jason, and Scott. And we were like, well, what are we going to do? Jason's like, I know this guy, Davey. We should get him together, because we're all sort of like, Jason was still in Madison, but Davey, Scott, and I were in Milwaukee, and we just started going to college at the university here. And so it's like, oh, yeah, let's just meet up with that guy and see what happens there. And so that's basically like a weird, small, or like a real quick version of music bands evolutions to get to the Promise Ring.
So the Promise Ring, obviously, you kind of mentioned obviously meeting each other and finding Davey. Where does the band name come from, and the style of music? You know, you've mentioned a lot of hardcore and a lot of New York hardcore and all that stuff. So where, you know, you come to, you know, the emo world or whatever you want to call it, indie rock world. Yeah, kind of bring me through the name of the band and the direction of the band.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically how we picked the name. I mean, again, it was probably from a list of 1,000 names, and that was just we're up at
whittled it down.
So
yeah,
Scott Beshta lived in this house that we called the Fletch, because we were really big fans of that, the Fletch, the movie and Fletch Lives.
Movie. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing movie. And so we did shows there in the basement. We actually practiced there when there weren't shows and stuff. So we were at the Fletch, and we were up in his room, and we were like, just had this long list of names, and that sort of whittled down. And the only thing I really remember about why the Promise Ring was, you know, interesting is that because it's not only it's a term for the ring before an engagement ring, but it's also like we were thinking it more like a ring of friends, like a ring of people that, you know, are, you know, kind of more of a group.
Sure.
Than a you know, something you wear on your fingers. Yeah. So that's, yeah. And then, I mean, musically by that time, you know, post-hardcore and Quicksand and like all that stuff was happening, you know, so that's what kind of was the impetus for Kaylee Shrine, was we're like, oh, Quicksand's really cool. Let's do more stuff like that. Like I basically followed Walter Schreifel's like I really got inspired by Youth of Today, Gorilla Biscuits, Quicksand. So I basically followed his musical direction. I guess I'm just realizing that now. But yeah, so then, I mean, so like a lot of that was kind of our influence. And then obviously right around, I mean, obviously Fugazi, obviously everything that came out of DC and Discord Records was, you know, major influence for all of us, you know. Like I did, like, you know, Minor Threat was like, you know, I could wear a Minor Threat shirt every day in high school. Like I had so many Minor Threat shirts that I could just, you know, keep wearing them, and, you know, without repeats for a while. And so it's just like, they were my favorite band. And then they were like, oh wait, but now their new band's called Fugazi, and it's like way better. And it's amazing that they're doing everything that you want to do with music, like from, you know, ideologically and musically.
Sure.
You know, so it's like, so all of that. And then obviously then when Sunny Days Diary came out, like then obviously that was, it was like 24-Hour Revenge Therapy by Jawbreaker, and Diary came out, and all these like incredible records started coming out that were like, oh, these are something that are nice to listen to. So it was sort of like so again it's just sort of like let's try to do that and completely get it wrong, and then that will be our sound, right? Like, that's how all bands find their sound, right? They try to mimic something else, get it completely wrong, but then it becomes what they are, what their sound is. So I mean, that was sort of like how we started in that regard. We just sort of like, we had these sort of like goalposts of influence, and we went for those and got totally wrong.
Well, obviously, I don't think you got totally wrong, in my opinion, at least. But I mean, were the songs coming out pretty, quickly, and kind of what brought you to Jade Tree? Kind of bring me to, that label coming into the picture.
Well, we had a friend, Joe Barris in Madison. He did Foresight Records, so we did a 7-inch or so with him, and he put out None Left Standing stuff, I think, and he also did a Kaylee Shrine 7-inch. So we were like, he put out the first stuff that we did, and then at some point, Jason went out to New York to hang out, and he brought a demo or a tape that has all of our stuff on it, and gave it to Norman Brannon from Texas when they were hanging out, and Norman just happened to be living with Tim Owen from Jade Tree at the time, and it was just sort of Norman like receiving the tape from Jason, turning around and giving it to Tim, and being like, "You should listen to this band. They're from Milwaukee. They're good. They're good people." And so I think that's sort of how.
That's cool though.
How that sort of like, simplistically how that came about. It's just sort of like, Jason being at the right time, right place at the right time with the right cassette tape.
That's awesome. I love that. Obviously you signed with Jade Tree. But was there any other labels interested? Just out of curiosity, I know, was it just the one and done with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was just sort of like, they offered, and we were like, yes. I mean, there was because we weren't shopping. We weren't necessarily like shopping around as much as just sort of like, let's casually give music out to people that we like and respect. Right. And see what happens. Sure. And so, and then that was it. Like, we would have just still be on Foresight or whatever label, if that meeting didn't, or that's cool though. Transaction didn't happen or whatever,
Change the course of the band for sure. 30 Degrees Everywhere, first proper full length. Kind of bring me through recording that record, thoughts, memories from that time. Kind of just bring me through that.
We recorded at Idful in Chicago, which was nice because it was close. We recorded with Casey Rice, who just got off of recording the Captain Jazz record.
Oh, nice.
And he was doing a lot of work with the post rock band Tortoise.
Okay.
Sorry, I just got a warning. I need to plug in my laptop. And so, because, when it came time to looking for recording a full length, obviously we were, we talked to Tim Kinsella, and it's like, hey, obviously Davey recorded with him as well on the Captain Jazz record. So we're like, it kind of made sense. Like, well, let's just do what they did. And so that, and I may remember being very nervous because, I mean, we did go down there. I think these are two different sessions. We did go down there to do the first thing was that, the 7-inch falsetto, keeps time record. Yeah. So we did that. And then when we came back for the full length, I was a little bit more confident, but like the first time being in Idful and John McIntyre from Tortoise was there helping set up. I was just like, nervous because like he's an incredible drummer, and so it was like a cool experience because like, oh, these are all like really cool people from Chicago that are recording our band, like people that, yeah. So it was pretty rad for that time, to be able to do that. But then I just feel like, I don't know if it was what was going on, but I just don't feel like personally that Casey really had the care in the recording process that we wanted or we're looking for, because it was we use this phrase throughout our career of the band, referencing when we would do a take and we'd be like, oh, that doesn't really sound good, or maybe we should do that again. He's like, oh no, that's good enough for punk rock. And so we're like, okay. If you say so, Mr. Russ.
Yeah.
And so then it was just sort of like, then the record became the record. And then when we were driving back, listening back to it in the van, and we were just sort of like bummed because we were like, oh, this could have been a little bit better. But yeah. So, but it was cool. It was a good way to do a first record, like,
sure.
It was pretty low key. It was a, pretty relaxed vibe. It wasn't far from home. It was just, it was like
a cool experience.
Yeah. It was a cool experience, and one to be like, okay, learning experience moving forward.
Yeah, exactly.
These are the things that now we know we would like in the recording process that we didn't know going into our first record. Right. And so it's like, if there's anything from that record, working on that record, it's what we need. Right. Yeah. And so we figured that out. So that's good.
Are you proud of that record?
Not really. No.
I understand.
I do. I remember being, the last time I listened to that record in full, and I have no idea why I did this, but we were on tour in Germany, and, and I wasn't really I was never a drinker or anything. Like I never touched the stuff throughout most of,
sure.
All of Promise Ring. And so like everyone was just, imbibing. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. So I just like, well, I haven't listened to 30 Degrees in full forever. And I listened to it back, like, I can't remember when this was, probably 98 or something. Or no, it was later than that. But anyways, and I was just like, yeah, I wish I could like
turn back
more.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a great record. I definitely could understand, and there's a drastic production quality between, the next record, obviously. So I definitely understand that portion or that perspective on it. But I feel like 30 Degrees Everywhere really hit a lot of people at the right time. And there's some memorable, obviously, songs on it. And it kind of opened the door for you guys. What was the touring like for this record? Who were you touring with, and what was it like?
Yeah, I know we did a tour with Texas Is a Reason. They brought us out, and that was really helpful to introduce us to a new, or just bring us out, because we toured ourselves and, just playing the punk places, that
sure.
we could just book our own. But then this was like when they took us out, they were like, oh, we're actually playing like, really nice, nicer clubs and bigger rooms and stuff like that. And all those Texas guys are still like near and dear to me. Like I love those guys. And now that they're doing the 30th anniversary tours, I saw them a couple times, and I just love those guys to bits. And So yeah, so I mean that was awesome. Like that was super fun.
Yeah, I
Like
believe it.
what a great first US tour to
Totally.
be on than having them, bringing them on and having their show. So you didn't have the pressure of having it being your own show,
Yeah.
and so we were in that perfect like middle spot, like second to three, direct support. And it was just, and so we could, go in with the mentality of like, oh, that's cute. That opening band was cute, but we're going to blow them out of the water. And then we're going to try to make Texas look dumb. Like that's the sort of like, I mean, we couldn't, but that's the mentality going in. There's no way we could have.
Yeah.
But at least, like that's what if you're in that second band slot, that's if you don't have that mentality, you're doing something wrong. But no, I feel like that was a fun tour to be on, because like just being like, hey, this isn't our show. We're just going to go up there and
rock,
rip as best as we can,
yeah.
and then have fun for the rest of the morning and night and day, and like it was just
what
a
fantastic
amazing
tour. That fits you guys so well, especially, looking back on that. It's like, man, like you said, amazing first tour. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like people were into you guys a lot?
I think so, because at that point, I think there was like, I think we were, again, I'm the worst memory person. But yeah, I think we really only had a 7-inch at that time. I don't think 30 Degrees was necessarily out yet, or it did come out. It came out on the road. Because I mean, all I remember is, and I don't know if it was the Texas tour or a later tour, but we were playing GB's in New York, and when the first when we I think first got the CDs or whatever, and vinyl for 30 Degrees, and we sold like 1 million copies that night. It was like
that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, a million could have been like 150, but still 150 units at a show
felt like $1 million.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it felt like $1 million. It felt like we just have a platinum record on our hand, one CB show at a time. Oh. And I know, but it was like, yeah. So again, where that happened, it might have been on a later New York show.
Yeah,
because we played New York a lot, not only because the label was East Coast. We also had friends in New York, and there was a lot of like that CMJ, like the South by Southwest of the East, like CMJ Showcase. We played that a lot, and there's obviously always opportunities to play New York, and we did as often as we could,
Sure.
And so we'd end up touring out there frequently. So that's why things get a little muddled.
I believe it, man. I believe you played your fair amount of shows. I totally get it. Hey, this is Jeremy from the Rumors Are True podcast. Hang right there. Here's a word from our sponsors. Obviously, this record comes out. You hit the road. When do you start working on Nothing Feels Good, and kind of bring me through the recording of that record? What that was like? I'm sure. Obviously, it sounds like it was a better experience overall than the previous. So yeah, kind of bring me through that.
I think that my only memory of writing that record was, we must not have all lived in a place that would have allowed for practice spaces, and we weren't, because like we were no longer with, in the Fletch, like we couldn't use that as our practice space. So I think we ended up going into where Davey's brother Corey was living, the Bremen House, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere around there, and rehearsing and writing most of the record there, if I'm not mistaken, and then learning from 30 Degrees, we're like, well, we need to find somebody that can record and produce us that, cares.
Yeah.
And so obviously touring with Texas, their record was done with Jay Robbins, and so that seemed like the obvious choice for us, just because it's like, well, the Texas record sounds awesome, sounds incredible. They, all the Texas guys have sang Jay's praises throughout the whole tour. That makes sense. So then Jay Tree reached out, or whoever reached out, and then we ended up meeting at Easley Studios in Memphis. So, and why that studio, I don't really remember why, but I'm glad we did, because it's an incredible studio to record in. Because I was a huge Jeff Buckley fan. I was a really huge Townes Van Zandt fan, and to know that both of their last recordings were sort of like there, right? And so they would. I remember, and Stuart Sykes, who was the engineer there at the time, who helped record with the record as the sort of engineer to let Jay do more, producing. Would open up the 2-inch tape, room, and to grab new tapes or whatever. And I could see Jeff Buckley, I could see Townes Van Zandt. Wow. I was just sort of like, this is like a dream come true. This is where I should be right now. I'm so stoked.
That's sweet.
And so, it was cool. And it was such a cool vibe. It was like where Idful was a little bit more kind of sterile, as a recording room. Easley was all just straight up a vibe. Like it was. That's cool. The way it was laid out, just everything felt just way more comfortable. So that really helped that process. And then, and Jay just was just incredible to work with, because this was our first time meeting him, and then going right into working with him. And it was like, it was great. Such a kind soul, and and we got the sort of job done.
Did he bring a lot to the table? Cool. Did he bring a lot to the table to this record? And was he putting his 2 cents in on it, or was everything kind of the way?
I think he's sort of like his influence. Well, his influence on us, was already in the band. Yeah, with us, just again, trying to be Jawbox and failing. It's so he had already heavily influenced the band even before we met him, right? So now that we met him, then it was just like exponentially more influence, because he's just like, this is how these are how we got good drum sounds on For Real Special Sweetheart. This is how we got this. This is the guitar, this is blah, blah, blah. And to make you feel comfortable, because he's also he's totally not a dictator at all. He's just like, what would you want? How would you interpret that?
He's a sweetie.
That sort of thing. He's a real sweetie. And so it was just like, it was a super comfortable thing. Now, unfortunately for me though, me and the bass player we had basically been like enemies at that point. So I was looking, so that was, I was in this amazing place, but I unfortunately had this weird baggage that, was sort of lingering, that we're like, we're not really friends right now. We're not really copacetic with each other. So, but it's fine. We made the record, and, maybe that tension helped with the rhythm section, because obviously at that point we're just like, oh, you're going to play that? Oh, that's cool. I'm going to play this, and it's going to be better. And then, oh yeah, you're going to do that one. There might've been a little bit of that,
rivalry,
rhythm section, friction, that trying to one up each other, that probably made the whole, the recording better. But who knows?
Did you guys feel like you had something special with this record, and did it turn out the way you wanted it to?
Well, I mean, I felt like we had something special with the record because the record happened, right? And that's all I wanted out of any of this band was just like, okay, we recorded I wanted to be on a on a record, right? A full length record. Okay, we did that with 30 Degrees. Okay, well now I want to be on a better sounding record. And I want to, and then I'm recording this in this space, in this like hallowed ground in Memphis. Like, there's, and then, like that in itself was special to me. Like that record exists is enough for me, and then, so whatever happened after is just sort of like, oh, that's cool. Like, awesome.
Totally. What, when you finally heard it completed and done, it was mixed and everything, did it blow your mind? Did it exceed your mind? What your thoughts would be on it?
I remember being very happy with it. And then I remember giving tapes out to friends and they're being like, seeing their reaction. Cause like internally, there's always this, the dumb nitpicky, like, oh, like we really fought over some of the sequence of the record when we were down there, but when we like did the mixes and we're like laying out the final sequence, we were like bickering. I remember about where certain songs should be in certain places, so to get an outsider perspective where like my girlfriend at the time, now wife, I gave her a tape. She was like, this is really cool. Our really good friend, Josh, like, like all of our friends were like, yeah, no, this is great. So at that point I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. I think maybe all that bickering then was kind of like worth it. And, like totally. I can now get a different perspective by hearing what other people think rather than us, because there's always going to be something with the record that we're going to have an issue with,
this was a pretty, I feel like, from my perspective, and I'm not talking like we were talking about earlier, joking about a million, platinum records, but I feel like this is a very successful record for you guys. What was the touring like for this? I want to say I saw you guys. I want to say it was after this came out in Denver at the Double Entendre. Remember that little record store in Denver? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I saw you guys there when you guys played once. But what was the touring like and the success of the record? Did you feel like the crowds were obviously bigger and really into it?
Yeah. I think I remember this was crazy tour schedule, like where you would do a month of the East Coast and then a whole month of the West Coast, right? Like instead of doing a month of the whole thing, like we were really doing it. And we've already been to Europe once, and I think we went again, and it was just like, I mean, it was relentless in a way. But at that time we had a new bass player, Tim Burton, who was in None Left Standing, on that tour. He didn't record the record, obviously, but he did the tour. Mm-hmm. And so we did a lot of shows with Tim. And it was just sort of, it was fun because every show was fun. Like people were there and, everyone was, there to have a good time and, and I don't remember too many negative, things that happened on that tour, because those are the things you remember, right? Like all the good times you don't remember, you just remember the bad. So I'm assuming, since I don't remember a lot of things about the tour, that it was the most amazing tour ever. Right?
No, obviously.
Because nothing went wrong that I can remember.
Everything feels good. No,
right.
Was there a particular tour? I mean, I know there was obviously iterations of it, but was there a lineup that was awesome on that? Like who was it with? Was it Get Up Kids maybe, or I don't remember.
No, we didn't do a lot of shows with Get Up Kids. We did a lot. When we started, it was like Texas were our buddies. And then then we did a lot more like Midwest shows. And so we did a lot with Chrissy Front Drive and Mineral. And like we went down to Austin a lot. And Compound Red are Milwaukee buddies. So we did a lot of shows with them. And so there was that sort of Mineral and Chrissy Front Drive friendship that we would play shows all the time. When they would come up there, we'd go down there, whatever. And then through Chrissy Front Drive, we met Jimmy Eat World. And so then around that time, we did a lot of shows with them. And then, then we did Dismemberment Plan shows. Remember touring with them as well, with that sort of DC connection. Yeah, so it's just like we had these buddy bands that we would play shows with and go on tour with and stuff. And that was really
that's incredible,
because at that point we could do these shows and we'd be like, well, we want these people to come out with us, and we could build our own little like event tour,
Sure.
And so that was nice. And so we wanted to tour with our friends.
Yeah.
And that's when it was, I think that's why I don't remember a lot of the bad memories, because, or I don't remember a lot of it because there weren't any really bad memories of that, because we were literally touring with friends. Right. And so it's just sort of like every show was with your friends, right? Yeah. And I don't remember a lot of drama between those bands.
That's great.
Because at least for those specific bands, they're pretty.
They're like-minded.
Yeah, like-minded, and they're not assholes. So it was easy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, that's sounds like a awesome, obviously, album cycle for you guys. But you wind up kind of taking a break. You kind of alluded to Davey having some time off. That
was later. Our first break in doing stuff was the van accident in '98.
Oh, I didn't even know about that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. We were on tour. We did a Midwest stint with Hum, opening for Hum, and then this band Castor, who we also kind of were buddies with.
Yeah.
So Castor, and so it was Castor, us, Hum, and we did like 4 or 5 shows, and the last show was in Kearney, Nebraska, and we made the dumb decision to try to drive home from Kearney, Nebraska, overnight, and the tale as old as time. You hit black ice on the road, you spin out, and you end up in a hospital.
Unbelievable.
Luckily, none of us died, which was insane, because I could remember waking up outside of the van and just seeing Davey running around trying to gather gear from the middle of the freeway. I saw Jason right next to me, just kind of sitting up but not saying anything. Our tour manager was 50 yards away from me, just lumped over. Yeah, I mean, it was surreal. It was totally surreal. So then we took a little break to heal up. At that point, we then Tim was no longer in the band. We got Scott Shane back to do it. So then that was another elongated that break, because now we have a new bass player, needs to learn some songs. So we needed to heal up and rehearse with him before we could go out again. And then when we did go out again, that was a Jimmy Eat World tour where they came to support us. And I remember going down to, I think we met them in Texas-ish area, and then kind of went up the East Coast and into Canada.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's, I want to talk about Vermont here in a little bit, but let's continue on the Promise Ring here. Obviously you mentioned bringing the new bass player in. Let's talk about the Very Emergency record, complete departure, not complete, but way more pop oriented, record overall. Love this record. It's so catchy, so good. Not that Nothing Feels Good wasn't, but it's definitely more ear candy, if you will. Kind of bring me through recording this record, your thoughts from that time and memories from that recording.
I mean, I think we were just influenced by a lot more power pop bands, and that sort of because again, I mean, it's the we've said this 1,000 times, but like we never really wanted to make the same record twice, especially after recording 30 Degrees into Nothing Feels Good. You know, we're like, okay, clearly we've done that, right? That whatever that is, we've done.
Sure.
Let's figure something else out, because we do, you know, like, because we're interested in expanding and not just
challenging
making
yourself.
the same record twice, and challenging ourselves totally. And so, we just got influenced by simpler things. I got really into David Lovering from Pixies drumming. I really got into like this powerful but simple kind of, you know, you can say a lot with little as long as you hit the drum really hard. And so sort of like, okay, you know, and there's certain things that we just sort of like, you know, started influencing that sort of thing. And so like, you know, it almost became a challenge in itself to be like, well, let's see what we can do here. Can we write a 10-song album that's, you know, straightforward, more poppy, more rock, and keep it contained, you know, and just make it its own thing, right? And so that we kind of just challenged ourselves to do that. And that's sort of like, and then obviously we still wanted to use Jay because we had such a good time with him in, for Nothing Feels Good. So so that was a no-brainer. And, you know, and I think that was a fun challenge for him too, because now has to, you know, there's a different experience recording wise than we would, or at least mindset, you know, like your mindset going into recording than it was for Nothing Feels Good into Very Emergency is very different, you know? Yeah. Sorry, I just got a phone call.
You're good.
Wait, didn't I just hang up? Yeah.
No worries. I'll edit this out.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not on that. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So heading into that recording, you know, I don't remember what the decision was, but why we recorded at Inner Ear. But it probably was just convenient to Jay because he lived right there. Yeah. And because it's like, oh yeah, well, I mean, you know, Fugazi also recorded there, so it's like, why not? So that was another like, you know, thing where it was, you know, again, you're stepping into this hallowed ground of Inner Ear Studio where like, you know, everything was recorded that influenced you, you know? You're going into there to make a pop record.
Yeah. Ironic.
So yeah, it was, but I mean, again, great vibe. It was amazing studio. I mean, Jay obviously knew it really well. And we could get sounds really, really quickly. Things really just seemed to gel, you know, at the start of that record, like, you know, to get going.
Did this record turn out the way you guys wanted it to? And what was that like hearing it for the first time when it was completed?
Yeah. I think that is a document of what we sought out to do. And so that way it succeeded.
Yeah.
We mixed in Madison, Wisconsin at Smart Studio. And so, yeah, we recorded Inner Ear and then mixed at Smart, and so I would just remember hanging out on the balcony, at Smart and, you know, having a little cookout of veggie dogs and just sort of listening back to it and just being like, you know, and that sort of were like, you know, cause we recorded like, I don't know if we recorded maybe one or two extra songs, but we're like, no, we got to cap it at 10. Like it's got to be a 10-song album, you know?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, which is for that time in the 90s, it was kind of more later 90s, but, you know, 90s was just sort of like 90s records were just gluttonous, right? Of tracks upon tracks and bonus tracks and hidden tracks, and it's just like it was so this is kind of like the antithesis, I think, of subconsciously of that sort of gluttony of albums. but
were you guys?
So we were super happy.
Were you guys aiming? I know this is kind of a weird question, but I mean, with it being so pop oriented, were you guys aiming for the fences in terms of like maybe like getting on radio or anything like that? Or was that kind of maybe part of the goal, or just to expand the fan base somewhat?
Well, I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, obviously the goal of the band is to continue being in a band and whatever that means, and only doing the band. So that means you need to have it monetarily make sense. And at that point we were, we've toured 2 album cycles of a certain type of sound. And so, so it's like, I mean, there was a little bit of that, but also, but that wasn't I don't think that was necessarily the goal.
The goal. Yeah.
Because obviously we knew our limitations, and we knew that, like, we knew what we liked and didn't like, and but it is funny. And actually I just thought of this because, like, earlier when you were talking about Nothing Feels Good, and then you talked about Very Emergency, you had to sort of like, but no shade to Nothing Feels Good, or you're talking about Nothing Feels Good, but but no shade to Very Emergency. And I think that reaction and that what you just said is exactly what we were looking after or going for, because it's like, you can like both records. It's okay. And if you don't, that's okay too, but you don't have to be precious over one or the other. You know what I mean? Like, and that was sort of like, and that I didn't really realize that until early when you mentioned that, like, when you mentioned one record, you had to sort of like quantify this sort of like the feelings of the other one.
Yes.
But you don't have to do that, because they're both 2 separate entities that you can either love both or hate both, or love one or love the other.
Yeah.
So like, I think that because of your reaction earlier, I think that's the proof that we did the right thing. I think so, like, with at least our mentality at the time, to do that. We're going to make this record, and you're going to love it or hate it. It doesn't matter, because it's not our last record. Right? Yeah. And you can love both, and you can hate both, or you could love either one. It doesn't matter. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Okay.
Yeah.
That just totally
makes sense.
dawned on me.
And I failed to ask this on Nothing Feels Good, and I'll just ask it for both. Are you proud of Nothing Feels Good, and are you proud of Very Emergency? Just your thoughts on looking back on it.
I'm totally proud of both those records, because again, for me, it's like that record gave me the opportunity to record, at Easley Studio or at Inner Ear, or work with Jay Robbins, and mix at Smart Studio, like all these opportunities that, as a skateboarding punk from Grafton, Wisconsin was having, was great. So it was, so I'm very proud of them in that regard, because it gave an opportunity that I never thought I would have if I had growing up,
Yeah, absolutely. So is this another time for a little bit of a break for you guys until you start working on Wood and Water, and you wind up signing with Anti Records? Kind of your thoughts? Yeah.
Well, so at that point, after all these album cycles, and then Davey getting diagnosed with the brain tumor and the multiple surgeries, so we were forced to have this sort of hiatus. And it gave us all time to reflect on what we wanted to do, and making another rock record and making another sort of 30 Degrees or Nothing Feels Good was just not in our interest.
Sure.
So when it did get time to start writing songs, we wrote some demos, and we wrote, and we went into a studio in Milwaukee to cut demos with this guy Christian Riley, and so like literally 6 songs. 3 of them could have been an evolution of Very Emergency, and then 3 others were like these newer, different type songs, right? And then so when we looked at those, we're like, oh well, the newer songs sound much more interesting to us. And it was like My Life is at Home, Say Goodbye Good, and Stop Playing Guitar. And so like those are the 3 songs. And so we're like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
The songs that we have, the other 3 songs weren't as interesting to us. We road tested those songs. We played them live. And when we were playing them, it was just sort of felt like we're trying to force another Very Emergency onto the world with these songs. And it just didn't, and it just didn't feel right. It's just like,
sure,
that I don't want to spend my time forcing people to hear songs that they've already sort of heard before from us.
Sure.
So that was a really insightful recording process that we did for those, in Milwaukee. And I'm glad we had the opportunity to do that, because then it kind of like, just steered us in the right direction. And so then on the business side, we got a manager, we sold, we got some publishing money, and we got some, and then we got signed to Anti. So it was like some things were happening while we were making this like musical direction decision, that then, with some of the publishing money, we bought recording equipment that we could start doing demos ourselves, because we weren't able to do that before, besides, shitty 4-track and 8-track recordings. And so, we had then, and we also had a little bit of luxury of time, because, we were still, Davey was still healing from his surgeries and all that. And it's just sort of like, we just started working for these demos. That ended up being Woodwater songs.
What was the record? I mean, it sounds like you guys primarily did it yourselves. Is that what I'm hearing? Or you worked with someone?
The demos, just the demos.
Oh, okay.
No, but then again, with through management and through relationships and stuff, we ended up recording Woodwater in England with Stephen Street. So again, I mean, I mean, we're like at Jacob's Studio, which is a little album called Queen is Dead was recorded there. So it's just like with Stephen Street, who is, that has worked with Morrissey and all those guys, which, I know Morrissey now is a total pariah, but at the time, it was, I mean, again, so like, so going from Easley to Inner Ear to Jacobs with Stephen Street, it was just like, it was pretty magical. Again, all that's enough for me.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like that experience alone was great. Like whatever happens to this record is what's going to happen to this record. But I'm in England, playing croquet in this beautiful farmland during takes, getting food served to us, because it's like, because it's a remote studio. It's like a 45-minute train ride to London. So it was just sort of, we were in this outskirt English countryside recording a record. So it was just sort of hard not to get influenced and sort of like, it was incredible. And
I believe it.
That said, it was incredible, but then it was also sort of like, it was also very tough, because as a band, we were making these career-ending decisions while recording. You know what I mean? Like, so much that we were all conscious of it, and so much that we were like, we should break up and just start a new band, and just this will be our demo, or this will be our debut record, right?
Yeah,
like that's what we were talking about, because we all knew what we were doing. I mean, obviously, it didn't stop us, because it's what we wanted and needed to do, but it was this sort of like, you know,
you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah. And so, I mean, but yeah. And then, and I remember one of the Anti and Epitaph has an office in Amsterdam. And so the guy from the head of that office came to visit, and we listened back to the record. Like, yeah, I mean, his first words were, "This is a very different type of sounding album you guys made." And yeah, so I don't think Epitaph or / Anti was very happy. That's no surprise there. But but yeah, but that was an incredible experience.
Are you proud of that record? Did it turn out the way you guys wanted it to?
Yeah. The only thing that I have, and it's, at no fault, but like David got really sick when it was time to do vocals. So I just feel like his vocal takes, I hear the nasalness, and so like that's the only thing. I was like, I wish he didn't get sick, but it also ends up being fine because it does. The album is the album, right?
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. And apparently, I use Apple Music as my, main music listening source, and my algorithm thinks that Woodwater is my favorite record of all time because those songs come up all the fucking time. And I don't necessarily skip them, but I would any other.
I think it's a great record.
Any other album, I would actually none. Very Emergency never pops up, but I get Nothing Feels Good songs. But no, I mean, like Suffer Never, like that song came on like through my algorithm of shuffling my whole thing or whatever, my radio. And it took me a second to realize what it was, because I'm like, oh wait, that's it. Like I wrote those string parts. Like, oh, that's interesting. Like, yeah. So no, I don't hate. I'm proud of that record, and I don't hate that record.
Yeah, I think it's great. I got to see you guys on that tour. I think in Lawrence at the Bottleneck, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean putting together that record was one thing. Touring that record was a completely different beast.
I believe it.
And I think that, and that's what ultimately ended the band because, like, we couldn't convince the audience that this is who we are. You know what I mean? Like, we couldn't win over the audience. So I don't think we were confident enough because we already thought we were committing career suicide anyways. So it's just sort of like, it's kind of like, self-fulfilling prophecy in that regard. Like, I don't think I don't think we had the confidence to pull those songs off live to have the audience believe in us.
Yeah. What was that like ending the band? Was that difficult? Was that easy? You mentioned
it was
kind of knowing.
I mean, the kind of writing was on the wall, but when we ended, we were on the Plea for Peace tour. And so that was just like this, I mean, it was a terrible tour for us because it was like International Noise Conspiracy was supposed to open, or was supposed to headline. We were direct support. Poison the Well was right before us. And, and so it was, it's like, oh, that's kind of great. We're in between these kind of these two bands. And so it's just like, whatever. And then the drummer of International Noise Conspiracy hurt his back or something. And so they couldn't play. So then we ended up headlining and, playing after Poison the Well. And it was just sort of like, this isn't working. So then we had to have them headline because it's like, we were sick of playing to like a half audience. So everyone left after that. It was just like, again, no confidence whatsoever with those songs. And so we ended up I kind of knew what was going to happen because I can't remember. I think it was in the Seattle area. I think maybe in California. Davey and I went to eat at a Denny's and just us two. And he was basically saying, yeah, I think this is going to be the end, but I don't want to, stop playing songs. Would you want to continue making music, but not with the rest of the guys or whatever? So then I was like, yeah, sure. That sounds awesome. Because when we were recording Woodwater, we had a different bass player at the time. Ryan Weber was recorded and wrote a lot of the Woodwater bass lines. Him and Jason went to Amsterdam over the weekend, and Dave and I stayed back at the studio and just sort of like were dicking around with songs and whatever. And so like one of the songs ended up being King of Doves, which is on the first Maritime record. So, so we were already sort of like continuing to work on songs that would end up being future Maritime songs. So like, so when it was, it was kind of brought up ending The Promise Ring, but they're
new beginning,
but moving, but continuing with something else. I was like, oh yeah, sure, that's fine. I just, simple old me, I just want to continue making music.
Sure.
So then we ended up playing our last show in California. We canceled a video shoot for Suffer Never, and then we canceled a Japan tour, and then it just came home. But it was weird because it was sort of this thing where we go to LA because that's where we were going to do the video. Didn't do the video, so we had an off day. But Bright Eyes was playing a sold out show at the Henry Fonda Theater, right? And so we went to that show, and so and so kind of the story I was going to say. Well, I can still tell it, but the Vermont story, recording at the Mogus's studio or their house, with watching the Packers losing the Super Bowl that time, but this little kid came to hang out with us, and it was Connor. And so it was like this weird thing because he was a fan of the band. And so like, and it's actually funny too, because when we did that van accident in 98, it was right outside Omaha. He came to visit. We had already left, but he came to visit. Jason was, I think, and Tim were still in the hospital, but Davey and I and Mike, our road manager, we left. We could leave. We weren't as injured. Anyways, totally whatever. So it was weird being broken up and then seeing Connor like killing it on stage, and then being like, well, I don't, it was a weird, surreal moment, and then it's just sort of, okay, well, now the band's done. And now, basically Davey and I are starting over with a new project.
Yeah.
And then, and then basically when we got home from that tour, we just started right away, just demoing and writing songs that would end up being Glass Floor.
Yeah, let's bring me through the Maritime. We don't have to go through each record, but just kind of bring me through the time of that and what those records were like, and anything thought wise or memory wise from that time in Maritime. Which, by the way, We the Vehicles, I love this record. By the way, so good, such a great record. Kind of bring me through the time of Maritime.
Maritime was like started with Davey and I just demoing a bunch, and then around the same time that we broke up, the Dismemberment Plan broke up, and because there were old tour buddies of ours, we were like, well, we need a bass player, maybe we should ask Eric. And so we got Eric to agree to play with us, and so he recorded on the first two records, and then which were Glass Floor we recorded in DC again with Jay Robbins. So, and then again it was supposed to be on Anti. So like Maritime really started off the worst possible way you can start a band, right? You write and record a record, at this point, we now the third time using J. We went back to J, and it was like, again, amazing, but felt like a kind of a, like, and then we're doing songs that a continuation of the type of songs that we were doing on Woodwater, but a little bit more heavier, or like heavier, meaning more like rock, like more electric guitar than acoustic guitar.
Sure.
We don't really have we don't have a guitar player, it's just Davey, me, and Eric at the start. So Davey's doing both rhythm and lead, like in recording and writing. And so then when we tour, we have to find a guitar player. So we had, Mike Kinsella on a tour. We had Mike Fearstack, our friend from Canada, who did Snail House and now does his own name solo stuff. On guitar, we had Matt Clark from Chicago so we had all these, and it was just like, and the Anti was supposed to put out the record, but then they dropped us. So then we were recordless, and then we had DeSoto put out the record in the States, but then we had a Japanese label and a European label put them out. I mean, it was just sort of like this complete fumble from the gate. But it didn't matter, because we were like, we just need to keep going, and we'll just pull with these punches and just keep going. And then when we finally found Dan Hins, because his band, the Benjamins, broke up. And so then we got him on guitar. So at least we have a full 4-band with Eric.
Sure.
But at that time, Eric was just sort of like, I'm kind of done. Right.
Yeah.
But we'd already done We the Vehicles and toured that. And so we did US, Europe, and Japan with We the Vehicles with Eric. And then after that Japan tour, he left, and then we got Justin Klug, who was again a Milwaukee guy. He was in Decibully, like old friend. And so at that point, I felt like finally, after our second record, we finally are the band, right? It took us 2 records. Yeah. It took Maritime 2 records to get to a band.
Yeah.
Right. And so then, with Justin, then we ended up doing the last 3 records with Heresy in the Hotel Choir, Human Hearts, and then Magnetic Bodies, Maps of Bones. And then, so we did, and so between Glass Floor and We the Vehicles, again, DeSoto only put out Glass Floor as like a favor, because Kim is an old friend of ours. She was just sort of like during the beginning of The Promise Ring, she was our sort of like de facto manager, because she went through everything. So we kind of like, she was kind of a confidant, so we could just like email her, call her, and be like, this is happening. What should we do? That sort of stuff. And so she put it out as a favor. So it was really a one and done thing with her. And so we again, after Glass Floor, we were labelless again. And then it wasn't until a Chicago label called Flame Shovel chose to put it out that then it again, like, and that was a fun time, because shortly lived between We the Vehicles and Heresy in the Hotel Choir, we felt like Flame Shovel could have been, and was in a way, another type of Jade Tree, where we played with other Flame Shovel bands, and we had like this, this band from Chicago called Bound Stems. We toured with them a bunch, and again, this feels good, because it's like there are buddy bands again. It feels, because like during Glass Floor, like we would tour, and it felt weird, because we weren't really with, well, actually, I totally take that back, because Weaker Thans took us out, Lucero took us out. Like, we did really good tours with that.
Sure.
But they weren't, they weren't like, they were friends, but it wasn't like we were in the same, we weren't playing on the same court, like we were on the same sort of playground, but we were on they were on a different court. We just had,
I get that.
So it wasn't until we were on Flame Shovel where it was like Chin Up, Russian Circles. Like there was like bands that we could like, be our buddies with a little bit. And then, then again, much like everything, labels fold, and we were again labelless. And that's when we got again, through our old manager, Jeff Castellez, got on Dangerbird. And I feel
great
like,
label.
And then Human Hearts and Magnetic Bodies, Maps of Bones were both on Dangerbird. And so that was fun because again, it was just like, oh, okay, well now like Human Hearts was like, probably one of my favorite records that I've ever been a part of.
Oh, cool.
Just because, we kind of like recorded it ourselves, except for drums. I went somewhere else, but like, it was kind of like this album that just kind of felt like ours,
Mm.
It was just really, it was a good time. And with Maritime, once we got Justin Klug and Dan, and like it was us four from Heresy on, it felt like, like we never toured with a tour manager. We never toured with a sound engineer. We never toured with a roadie. It was just us four the whole time, like throughout, and it felt really special. Like it was just like,
sure,
this is the band and this is the crew and this is the, this is who we are. And, and that was a really, tight
exciting time
group.
Yeah. What are your thoughts overall just on Maritime in general? Obviously a different avenue for you musically than the Promise Ring, but was it, you mentioned the Heart record being one of your favorites. Is this, what do you just view it as a special time, artistically for you?
Yeah, because there was no expectation for us. Right. And so that is so freeing. We had no pressure whatsoever. So we could just do whatever we want. And we did, do whatever we want. Because we knew commercially we're just going to be whatever, right? Like at this point in our lives, we were married or getting married or,
Sure.
having kids or about to have kids. And, and it was just sort of like, all those sort of, we started getting, full-time jobs and, Maritime started becoming just sort of like what we do, on the weekends,
Yeah.
And so, it was just sort of, so it was freeing in that regard. So we could do whatever type of song we wanted. It was, the albums came out as cohesive things, but we really kind of were just sort of like song at a time. Well, what should we do here? Let's do
Sure.
this. So, I was influenced by this, so let's maybe totally, rip them off. And again, where we get it wrong is where the song ends up. And so it's just, that was sort of fun because it was sort of like, let's just write what we want to write without any expectation or pressure from anybody anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I think they're great records. I love that song, Tearing Up the Oxygen. I think that's such a banger. Great records. So I definitely I feel that's a great part of your history. Kind of bring me through Vermont. I know it was more short-lived than the other two bands, but kind of bring me through the Vermont time of your life and just kind of what that was like for you.
Yeah, Vermont started with Davey, myself, and James Miner, who was in Compound Red, and we would do just 4-track recordings at our practice spaces, and we would just kind of like, it was sort of like something to do when we weren't on tour, and it was going to be something that's quieter, softer. We were, we liked a lot of, like Snail House or Simon and Garfunkel, just like more folky, more stripped down, more laid back stuff. Is as an antithesis to what we were doing with the Promise Ring, at that time. And so it's just like, let's do it. Let's do this. And so we did that. And that also was just, again, we recorded a full record with the Mogus Brothers in Omaha and didn't do a thing with it. Right. Like, I don't even know where that, I don't even have a tape of that. I have no idea. It's just like, by the time it was just sort of like, we did that and it kind of worked out, but kind of didn't. We didn't know what we wanted to do, blah, blah, blah. And then sort of like James went, kind of, less interested. And then it's when we got Chris Rosano, who we really good friends with because he was in Pele, which we toured with, again, Milwaukee band, really good friends. And then, I mean, now he's currently does collections of colonies of bees. He does, and he's also in the Volcano Choir with
nice.
Bon Iver, with Justin Vernon, and he does a lot of stuff with Nick Sanborn, who is in Decibully, but now is in Sylvanesso. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like these group of Milwaukee musicians are all at some point inevitably going to play on somebody else's record. So this is, so when Chris came in, it was really fun because he, did do a lot of recordings by himself with collections of colonies of bees and pale, so he was kind of his own engineer. So we didn't have to worry about that with Vermont. And the idea is that we would do it all ourselves anyways. So it was good to, bring him in. He could record everything. He could play amazing guitar over everything. And, and so then we did Living Together as our first record. All recorded on, I think, a digital 8-track, or maybe that was a 4-track, or maybe that was, I can't remember what we all recorded that record on. But then, that's how we basically recorded records, with just bringing this 8-track around, practice space to practice space. Hey, I got this new song. Okay, well, let's get together on Wednesday and, and do something. So that's kind of how that came up.
Were those on Kindercore?
Came about. Yes.
What was that like?
Yes.
That's such a great label, historically, well-respected label, man. Being part of that, what was that like?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, no, they're great. I mean, it's all because Dan Geller grew up in the same town as Davey. And they were kind of friends, and then he went to Athens, and then did that whole thing, and it was just sort of like when they we sent them tapes or whatever, like, just as friends, like, hey, this is what I'm doing now, and they're like, oh, we'd like to put this out, and so like, okay, that's awesome.
That's
so
sweet.
we would so it was I mean it's pretty. So we did that with them, and that was a cool relationship. Because again, but Vermont never played, so it's like we didn't have to worry about playing live, and we probably played only a handful of shows. We did play South by Southwest once. That's just because we happened to also be playing with the Promise Ring, and I think Pele or Collections was down there anyways, or something. So I can't remember how Chris might have already been down there. And so Kindercore was doing a showcase. And so so we played that once. But like it was kind of so novel because we never played.
Sure.
That it was like it was such a funny experience.
That's awesome.
And we played at Buffalo Billiards, and this is one of my and Chris Roseno's favorite stories, is that we both got kicked out of that venue, which is like, of all the bands I've ever been in, the one band that I was in when I got kicked out of the venue was Vermont. But
that's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, favorite song and favorite record. I know you mentioned Hearts, the Hearts record from Maritime, but just overall, your favorite record you've been a part of and your favorite song you've been a part of.
I mean, Human Hearts is, I mean, that's just, for me, it's something really, that record is really just kind of something special for whatever reason. And then the song on it is called Peopling of London. Super simple song, critically not even one of the better songs on the album, but it's my favorite because as this group of four, that for some reason it felt like it was like our song. You know what I mean? And so like we always played it. It was all of our sort of collective favorite, even though it's, not anyone else's favorite songs. It was our favorite. And so it was really, so I feel like that's been always sort of my go-to, like, album and song, that being said, because of this algorithm that's feeding me my own songs, Suffer Never is pretty much
Good. Yeah.
I'm really coming to appreciate that song more
Yeah.
now than I've ever done. But it's funny about Peopling of London, the Maritime song. So Maritime, so our last show was 2016, but we did get together over the last, year or two. We've gotten together like 3 times.
Oh, cool.
And we have, tinkering with a couple songs. But the first time we got together 2 years ago, it was about 9 years after we've seen each other, right? Because I haven't really seen Davey since Maritime played at the last show. And so it was like, we all got together and, we all were like, we were just at our studio. So we had all the gear and all the instruments, and so it was just sort of like this weird thing where it's just like, we're just talking about songs. We're just talking about how everyone's doing. And then slowly but surely, like people are putting gear on and we're like, wait, are we doing this? Like, what's happening here? And so like we
that's awesome.
And so we were like, oh yeah, let's just jam. Like Davey kind of showed us these demos. I'm like, oh yeah, those are kind of neat. Like kind of tinker around with that. It's like, oh yeah, let's see what we can get. And so we started with Calm, which is the first song off of We the Vehicles. And we kind of like get to the bridge and we're like, oh, we don't remember this. But we're like, let's do Peopling of London. And so we played Peopling of London.
I remembered it.
In air quotes perfectly. Like we didn't just have a 9-year gap between seeing each other and playing that song. So it was just like that's our song, right?
Yeah.
Like we could do that song now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just I think so I think that has to be that answer, is that record and that song.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the influence and the legacy of the Promise Ring? And I'm not trying to cut the other 2 bands out by any means, but just as the legacy of that band in particular. Kind of what your thoughts, obviously.
Well, I'm really upset that you're not. Yeah, well, I'm really upset that you're not saying what the influence of Drawback was. Alas, high school hardcore bands never get their day in the light. But
the influence you guys had was, to me, it was monumental. But yeah, just your thoughts on the influence overall.
But your other smaller band, The Promise Ring, what was that like? It's absolutely kind of. It's ridiculous, right? In a way that, like in a good way, that people are still talking about that record, right? Because there's so many amazing records that people aren't talking about, or bands that aren't being talked about. But so I'm very happy, and I don't take that with for granted at all. Like that means a lot,
Yeah.
No, it's incredible, like people, my wife and I were just out and about, and I was at a coffee shop and a guy came up to me and said, "Oh, you're Dan from Promise Ring. Love it. Like, so nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah,"
That's so cool.
And you get, sort of recognized, and it's super sweet because nobody should necessarily, nobody has to remember you like that, like it doesn't, whatever. Cause I'm just a, 51-year-old, father of 2,
Yeah.
who, actually it's funny because I was at a show when my daughters were going through, they went to this public Montessori school here in Milwaukee. That's like a couple blocks from my house. And, I was at a show and this woman came up to me and was just like, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. I know that look. Are you Dan from The Promise Ring? Yes, I am. Nice to meet you. Like, that's super sweet. But no, she's like, "You're Ren's dad, right?" I'm like, yeah, totally. That's me. That's me. I am that. My daughter's dad. That is who I am. and that was really kind of special, like in that regard. It was like, oh my God, I'm not being recognized for something
that's amazing.
I did, at that point, like 15 years ago or more. I was just like, I'm being recognized for, my daughter. And yes, 100%.
I love that.
I'm proudly Ren's dad.
That's cool.
But yeah. And actually, and also recently I was at a movie theater. We just Milwaukee Film Fest was going on, and I was at one of their films, and a woman came up to me and said, do you play drums? Yes, I do. Blah blah blah. Oh, but she recognized me more for the Hallelujah Award, my newer band.
Wow.
Which I thought was also kind of cool. So I guess anytime I'm recognized not by my old bands, then that means more to me.
I love that. That's incredible. That's amazing. Any possible plans for any Promise Ring reunion shows or anything in the pipeline for that at all? Or I saw you at Wrecking Ball maybe 10 years ago, something like that.
Yeah,
in Atlanta.
Yeah, that was it. And then after that show, Davey's just like, never again. And so that's basically what it's been like. I mean, Best Friends Forever, obviously, like reached out, and I know they're on hiatus this next year, but I expect, another offer from them for the.
I'm waiting on another offer as we speak.
Because because it's like, but yeah, I mean, there's, I mean, and Davey's been fairly candid about it, so I feel pretty open that I can talk about it. Like that is just like, he has just absolutely no interest in quote unquote reliving his 20s. So, but that being said, Maritime, we are kind of getting back to, not getting back together, but like casually seeing each other, but again, in the last 2 years, we got together 3 times. So, there's no rush on anything in that regard either. But we do have like 3 skeletons of songs.
That's great.
Of songs.
That's exciting.
But
yeah, man.
Well, that's again 3 times in 2 years. So we'll see.
Who knows what the future holds? Who knows? Speaking of the future, I know, Dan, you can't predict the future, but what do you think the future looks like for you?
I mean, I don't know. I'll just keep going. And if it's not in this band, it's in that band, or if it's not, working on this project, it's another project. Just kind of keep moving, because I wish there was a more brighter future to look forward to, but I see no signs of a future that is not complete shit, but just the way the world is, and how people are treating each other. And it's just, it's insane, right? It's literally insane. And so, I will have to keep going, because I will be driven insane if I'm not surrounding myself with people that I respect and love, and creating something with those people. Then then I've already lost.
Well, Dan, I've super enjoyed this conversation. I mean, thanks so much for being candid and vulnerable and just opening up. I really appreciate all the music you've been a part of. It's really influenced my life, and I know a lot of other people as well. And your drumming is phenomenal. I've always loved seeing you guys live, and I've always just been an incredible drummer. So thank you so much for hanging out with me and just talking to me and shooting the shit with me. I really appreciate you hanging out. Hey, listener, thank you so much for tuning in again and again. Thank you for listening week in and week out. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all the messages, the likes, the subscribes, all that stuff. It really means a ton. So thank you so much. If you'd like to add me on Instagram and Facebook at The Rumors Are True Cast. If you would like to like and subscribe, you know the drill, guys. Also, I got a website, www.therumorsartruecast.com, with all the episodes, links to merch, all that stuff. So check that out if you're interested. Thank you to Dan Didier. Incredible conversation. So honored to have you on the podcast. Been a big fan of your bands and your drumming over the years. So I really appreciate you hanging out with me for a little bit and just telling me your journey. So thank you again to Dan. Got some incredible artists on the horizon, guys, and you know it. Nostalgia is still a heck of a drug. The podcast is produced by Wesley Hill, artwork by Jared Chase Bowser, and music by Brian Jaron. This episode is dedicated to the memory of my dear friend, producer, and man of many talents, Brian Jaron.